and I can't hear him. Oh, I can.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yay. You?
Good, you?
Good. How was your day?
Yes, it's fine. Pretty busy. But
You marketing job, yeah.
yeah, so I've got another 10 days there and then back full time into fitness, which
That's
is what we're here to talk about, or part of it.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Should we start with that then?
Sure.
So I guess giving it a little background, like Tom's worked in fitness for years. He's gone from being a PT to then moving into more marketing side of stuff, which is what he's doing now. And then he's going to move back into personal training. So what would be really interesting is a bit about your story, but then also a bit about what you're going to take from what you've learned in marketing, like back to PT, or like what.
Yeah, so I was working as a PT for the best part of 5 years in London. The usual stuff, personal training, online coaching, and did fairly well out of it. Was enjoying it for a long time, and then I sort of got to a point where I just thought, I'm not getting out of this what I want to, and maybe that was just kind of got to 30 and thought, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Maybe it was just what we call burnout, where you do something for so long, working the hours that we do, and eventually it kind of gets the better of you. And I think that was a large part of what made me want to go and try something else. So looked for marketing jobs, because that's the part of the PT or the online coaching stuff that I really enjoyed. How do I
guess just dropping it in there as well, like you've worked in sales before as well, which obviously translates so well to personal training. Like you are selling yourself effectively.
Yeah.
So like always been a strong point for you. Like obviously you've got the personal training knowledge, but to some extent, like you'd hope that most people have that. But it's how you're marketing yourself, how you're selling yourself.
Yeah. So the sales background definitely helped when I went into PT, because I didn't go into gym and then sort of work my way up as a fitness instructor and then a personal trainer. I went from Edinburgh to London with no clients, no gym. Well, I'd lined up a gym to work in, and went self-employed straight away. So it was a case of go out, find clients, get some money in the bank, and then build up your client base. So that the sales definitely helped me with that, because I knew how to approach people, ask them what the problems were, what they need solutions to, and then I provide the solutions, or I give them a sort of roadmap as to how they can get there, and then that's how you sell.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people, like myself included, really struggle with like the awkward, like this is how much it's going to cost. Less so now, but I think when I first started, it was like, like this is, people struggle with the money side.
Yeah, so that's 85% of sales end with, or not sales, end with the person trying to sell not saying, so would you like to pay for this now? Because asking somebody for money is a hard thing to do. But once you get better at it, and once you start valuing yourself and your service, it becomes a lot easier. So when you know that what you're doing is going to benefit that person, then it becomes easier. Obviously, it's still, if you're selling, say, 10 sessions or something, it's still a big chunk of money to ask somebody, but most people have that money and they're willing to spend it. But you just have to show them that what you're offering is worth that amount of money.
Yeah, and I guess that's why it was so hard initially, or what a lot of personal trainers struggle with to start with, because you probably don't value yourself that much or your service that much.
Of course, like, starting out.
But now I find it a lot easier, because I know that what I'm selling is worth the money, and it's less of it. But when you first start, you kind of feel like, is it actually worth this? Like, I'm still learning, or you'd have that almost that like imposter syndrome that you've spoken about a lot before.
Yeah.
That is like a bit of a limiting thing for a lot of trainers. We've got a few people asking stuff. Yeah, the struggle with the money side sometimes because people aren't committed to what they're investing in. I guess with online it's slightly different as well, because Like, I think you get a hell of a lot more online for your money than what you get face to face. You know, if you're paying, like around here, a personal training session's maybe £30,
Yeah.
but that's, and obviously London is a hell of a lot more. But that's just an hour of basically random exercise. If you're not willing to pay the extra to get your program out with that, you're really not going to get any results. You're not getting any nutrition support. You're not getting any programmed like progression or exercises to do out with your sessions.
Yeah.
Now, some might say, oh yeah, but I do that. I don't know many trainers from a business point of view. You've got to remember you're a business that can afford for an hourly fee, whatever that might be, £30 up in Dundee, like £90 down in London. Not many people can afford for that hour of your time to also program for you specifically. Like there's not a chance. And if they are offering that, it's generic and it's probably not suited to you.
Yeah, so if you're online programming, you will get, as you're saying, the program with the progressions, because that's all you're getting. Is it has to be structured, and you have to add the value with programming nutrition. You know, even if you go a little bit deeper into like habits, like sleep and things, and trying to, you know, make the person just feel better generally, you will get more for your money doing that than an hour of, as you say, random exercises. Like especially down in London, the standards may be a little bit higher because the price is higher, so you have to deliver a little bit more. But you know, then that pushes the prices up, and you're, as a PT, you're expected to go into a session with a session plan that went on from the week before and is continuing the week after. You know, you should be doing some sort of nutritional guidance. I've done everything from meal plans, you know, a handful of this with a, you know, palm-sized portion of this, where they followed it exactly, to just giving them macros and trying to teach them how to use MyFitnessPal. To a lot of the time now is more just saying, right, these are the types of foods you should be eating. This is what you should be, you know, not avoiding, but consuming, you know, rationing, I guess. So rather than, you know, eating your proteins, fats and carbs, but keeping in the kind of little junky things you like, but not overeating them, and showing them more systems of how to eat and habits. Because giving them a meal plan is too prescriptive, and giving them macros isn't really giving enough information. There's a balance somewhere, and it varies client to client. You'll find people with more knowledge or prep clients and things, they want macros and they will weigh everything out. But your average person who's paying for personal training just wants to learn what they should be eating. And if you can teach them portion control and things like that, that's where the value is.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so also accountability is a huge thing, which I think you get, you know, obviously you could get that with a face-to-face trainer if they're offering that extra support. But if you are literally just going in for 1 hour of, like I say, almost random exercise a week, that if you're only paying for that 1 hour is all really you can expect, then you're not getting all that feedback, you're not getting the check-ins, you're not getting the updates, the monitoring of your progress, and then the adaptation to your plan for the next week.
No.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying that online PT is better than face-to-face PT. Absolutely not. They're completely different entities. But what you should be doing if you're going to go for face-to-face PT is be open to paying a little bit more for this sort of hybrid, where you're going to get that online support as well. Or maybe it's not online, but the extra support that you're going to get your sessions programmed, you're going to get some nutrition advice, and you're going to get that accountability and that time from your trainer to sit, like, what have you done this week? Have you made progress? Why haven't you? What barriers have you come across? How can we get over them? What are we going to adapt so that you can meet your goals next week?
Yeah, so with your online coach, you will get all of that. You know, you'll send progress pictures and measurements and track it. As a good PT, if what you should be doing is saying, I don't charge 30 quid, I charge 40 or 45, because that allows you to spend the time writing a nutrition plan, or spending 10 minutes before a session every 2 weeks, taking their measurements, even if it's just a tape measure around arm, waist and thigh. You know, 3 measurements just so you can track something in it that's the type of value you could add to put your prices up and say, look, I don't charge £30 because for 30 quid you get an hour of random. 45, yes, I'm more expensive, but I provide you all of this. And then that's when you know that what you're delivering is more valuable than what the other person's delivering, and it's easier to ask for that money.
Yeah.
And being the best trainer is the best type of marketing you can have.
Yeah.
Being good at your job.
Referrals are the best marketing you can have. You know, you're so much. If I come up to a client and I'm trying to sell them something, you know, I'm obviously trying to sell them something, so you're less likely to believe that. Whereas if one of my clients says, you know, actually I got great results with Emma, that's the best marketing you can get, really. Like, look at the results I got. I don't even need to say this, like, yeah, okay, now we're mates, or like, she's my trainer, so obviously I respect her. But there's so much less bias there.
Yeah. People also.
Sorry, someone else has asked, as a PT, do you use the Henry equations? I think they mean Harris-Benedict, probably. Right. And PAL values, not sure what that is, to calculate someone's BMR. So basically, how do you...
personal activity levels, I'm assuming that is.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually use... I do use a version of that, but it was... who's the nutritionist? One of the guys, his name will come to me. He worked out that if you take all the different formulas for BMR and activity and average them out, if you multiply a person's weight in kilograms, a male by 24.2 or a female by 22.4, that gives you their BMR, and then you multiply that by their activity levels. And it's within 20 calories every single time. So if you take the average of that, rather than putting in this, male kilograms times 24.2 and female is 22.4, and that comes up the same.
Yeah, so the way I do it is all of these equations are estimates to start with, and all you really need to start with is like a ballpark estimate that you're gonna adapt to your progress. You're never going to be able to assess to the, don't know, even to the 100 calories exactly how much you're expending. And that's going to change daily as well. So if you've forgotten your keys and had to walk back to the flat twice, like...
Yeah, that activity will change every day.
Yeah, it's going to change every day. There's nothing we can do about it. It's just a good ballpark figure to start with, a good estimate of your needs. Now, all of these equations as well sort of work at general population, which means probably normal weight to slightly overweight. Now, if you've got either end of the extremes, these equations don't really work for those. So if you've got someone who's it's not as accurate. If you've got someone who's extremely obese, it's not as accurate. When you've worked with as many people as we have, you can probably guesstimate without an equation, and know, you know, to at least have a good starting figure that is always going to be a starting figure. I know that everyone's like obsessed with getting exact things now because you've got your Fitbit and it says you've burnt exactly this many calories, and you've got, you know, all these like bits of technology that are giving you exact numbers. It's never going to be that exact. There are inaccuracies in them, but what you need is a starting point and then to monitor your progress from there. So it doesn't matter if your Fitbit is saying you've burnt 4,000 calories. If you then start eating 4,000 calories and you're putting on a hell of a lot of weight, which for most women you will be, then it's obviously too much for you. So you take it down. Like, you just need to apply some like rational logic and then monitor, be consistent, monitor and adapt. Yeah. Okay, another question. How much would you offer to patients could be classified as behavioral change? It's one thing to lose weight, but it's another to change behavior that caused the weight gain. Yeah, like behavior change is everything.
Yeah.
Like there's that, I like the quote, you know, weight loss isn't rocket science. Like we all know it's energy balance, energy in, energy out, but behavior change is getting someone to be able to change their behaviors. That's your job as a coach. That's what like the magic is. Anyone can say, oh, you need to eat less and move more. But how are you going to get someone to do that? How are you going to get them to stick to it? And how are you going to get it fit in their life? That is what personal training is about. And
that's what comes with time and experience. because you work with more clients and you start to see where they struggle, and then you know, the more problems that you get thrown at you, the more solutions you have to come up with, and then you start to see patterns, and you start to see the ones that emerge as being more successful. You know, like if somebody overeats chocolate every night, getting them to switch to, and this is classic fitness, a darker chocolate because it's more bitter and you're less likely to overeat on that.
Does it taste like shit?
I like it. It depends how high cocoa content you go. But this is what I do, is I buy these Freddos because...
Oh, babe.
Exactly, because it's small, I can eat it. Yeah, you eat apple.
And then I pretend it's chocolate.
Sure, it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these behavioral change is what the whole thing is about. You're taking somebody who doesn't exercise generally, or you know, does one type of exercise that hasn't really got them anywhere, eats a certain way, lives a certain lifestyle, and then you have to change the way that they're doing these things slowly over time so that it becomes their new norm. So when they get up in the morning, they're not having, you know, a coffee, running at the door, grabbing a pan of chocolate at Starbucks and a latte. They're waking up, having something higher protein, or you know, making a shake and having a banana, and that gradually becomes their new breakfast. And then they start to drop a little bit of weight, and then you start to introduce, well, rather than buying your lunch out every day, or even if you are, rather than getting Greg's, you're going to go to Pret and you're going to get this option. And adding in things like, you know, this is my big thing ever since I worked in an office, was I would go out for lunch every day, 30-minute walk, and then I would come back, sit down and eat my lunch, because I've been sat in a chair all day. Getting people to do that makes such a big...
Did you say 13 minutes?
30.
Oh, right. That's very precise.
It is, yeah. I worked out on my Fitbit that that's all I needed. 13.
Oh,
yeah.
It is interesting though, yeah. I think a lot of trainers, I guess, like, are always, or the good ones anyway, like, you know, what course can I do next? How can I improve my knowledge? Blah, blah, blah. But it's experience. And like you were saying, like, the more problems or the more clients that you work with that have the more problems,
yeah,
teach you. And, you know, I always get the most sort of problematic clients. I'm so sorry, you must find this so annoying. Like, I've got another sort of issue coming up. And it's actually interesting to work with them. Like, they're the ones that teach you the most. The simple ones are great because it's like, yeah, you're getting great results. I'm basically just telling you what to do, and you just do it and you stick to it. And everyone loves having a couple of those clients. But it's the ones that really struggle that are going to teach you the most.
Yeah, it's problem solving, and that's where it becomes challenging, and challenging leads to rewarding. So without these clients, you just get bored. You can churn out the same sort of programs and nutrition plans for people that get great results for 6 months, and everybody getting great results all the time is nice, but without any little challenges where you're like, oh, right, this person didn't drop for 2 weeks. What's going wrong here? And then you find out that they're massively stressed and they've only been sleeping 3 hours a night or something like that. And, you know, maybe they didn't tell you first of all, but you start digging and you find out the behavioral problem that you got to solve. And then they drop weight. They feel great, you feel great, and that makes it all more exciting and interesting.
I think sleep is a big one, and I think people are too, as I say, I often get this that, oh, I've got like no energy levels, I think I need to increase my calories. You know, the sort of myth that maybe you're not eating enough to lose weight,
yeah,
which obviously isn't quite right, but you know, people love to believe that, so they're like, oh, I think maybe, you know, I've not got enough energy, I've not got enough calories coming in, and then you ask them like, oh, okay, well, like, how many hours are you sleeping? And you know, they're like, oh yeah, like I'm moving house and I don't really sleep because I've got a 2-year-old. And I'm like, you're tired. You'd be tired if you were eating 2,000 calories a day. It doesn't matter that you're on a diet. It doesn't matter how many calories you eat. You're still going to be tired. Like, that's not why you're tired.
Yeah.
What would you say you are doing differently from the first client you ever worked with to the most recent? Oh.
Do you remember the client? I'm not saying name them, but do you remember who it was?
My very first client? Not really, because I feel like most people sort of ease their way into like, oh, I trained my mum a bit, or like whoever, and then I can't really remember my first client, but I'm very sure that I was just doing like, here's an hour of random exercise.
Yeah.
There was no like progression or structure. What I do find funny is I have still got like all of the on like when I first started online coaching, because obviously that's digital, so it's all there.
Yeah.
I've still got like the programs I sent out, and as much as like the content is still quite good, you know, it's just written on a Word document,
Yeah.
just sent across. Like it doesn't even have a logo or like it, or I don't know, nothing.
But that's how we all start out. You start out, you know, it's what you call minimum viable product. So you didn't know if this was
Oh,
going to work out as a business.
design degree.
What's that?
There's your product design degree coming in.
Yeah. So you need to do the thing that's going to cost you the least, but then over deliver on the value that's in it. Like, don't waste time spending hours and hours or paying 500 quid for somebody to put it, you know, put a logo on it and make it nice, because you don't know if this is actually what's going to, you know, you might only sell one for 50 quid and then you're 450 down. So it is just, when you're starting out, creating a Word document, but make sure that document has all the information that it needs for that person. And then when they're like, oh, that's great, then you can start, and more people buy it, you can start investing more money and time into it. But the first programs, yeah, they're all real basic. But
Yeah.
what was in that type of programming that you do differently now?
Honestly, sometimes I look back at stuff and I'm like, I'd still use this now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think obviously like we've known each other like since we both started in fitness, but I was extremely lucky to be around people like yourself, but also like Mark Keys, like the people that we were working with at Edinburgh Uni. I had a really good, you know, I wasn't with a lot of sort of bros. Like I learned a lot very quickly.
Me.
I would have ever been allowed to like give out crap training programs.
No.
But that was complete luck, I guess, of like who I was working with at the time.
Yeah. Well, same with me. It was, I'd been into fitness for my entire life. So it wasn't like I just decided one day to be PT. I got told by more successful trainers to go and do that because they thought what I knew would be, you know, I'd be good at it.
And you came as well from a sports performance background where you'd had all this coaching, like
yeah.
You weren't just like doing what the PT said or the strength conditioning coach said. You were sort of asking, why am I doing this? Like,
yeah, I was obsessed with like, how can I get stronger, faster, more explosive for rugby? So that was, I would research it myself, and I would ask, okay, why 5x5? Why this? Why are we doing explosive jumps after heavy lifts? Surely I won't jump as high. And then they'll explain why. And
potentiation.
exactly. So you've got, yeah, we came from that sort of background. But what I would do differently with my first client than I would now is, I used to focus mainly, I was like, well, everybody wants fat loss. So it was strength work and fat loss. Now and I guess and give them a meal plan and tell them to follow that. Now what I would do is start with their movement first of all. Like, can they squat? Not really. Okay, maybe I shouldn't stick a loaded bar on their back. Focus on their movement, and that just be mobility work, because everybody wants personal training. Not everybody, but the majority are people that work in offices, carry young babies, heavy handbags. They're all a little bit rounded, tight hips, sore lower back. So fix those problems. Yeah. So fix those problems, and their strength and their mobility and their fitness and everything will go up much, much faster. They'll feel better about the training session by stretching at the start and just getting loose. Get warm, get loose. Then look at your strength work and you know, start loading up some movements rather than just chucking some weight on their back or sitting them on the leg press. Then I would be looking at what food choices are they making rather than just telling them what to do and saying, okay, instead of this, why don't we replace that with an apple? Why don't we have some nuts as a snack rather than a bag of crisps? Little things that will introduce them to that style of eating before I start telling them A, B, C, D, E, you know, 5 meals of chicken a day.
Why didn't we replace everything with cauliflower
Because it's rank.
and then say that it's cauliflower pizza?
No, never done it.
Okay, so we've got Hakan. You just asked about total daily energy expenditure and which formulas were used. We literally just spoke about that. So if you skip backwards, like once this is finished, you'll find that. Someone asked about meditation, which you are a meditator.
Yes. What was the question? I couldn't see it.
It said, what are your thoughts on meditation? I've been using Headspace now for quite a while and find it fantastic, not only for helping mindset on training, but relaxing from busy work.
Okay, so I wouldn't say introverted, but my brain goes 100 miles an hour all day, and it causes me a lot of problems and a lot of stress, and for the last 2 years, anxiety, which I've never had in my life, but these things all start to build up. And I start to meditate 10 minutes a day, and I've now managed to control my thoughts throughout the day. And if I start to feel a bit overwhelmed, or like I'm thinking about this idea, but I'm also thinking about work, but then I'm thinking about this plan I've got for the next 6 months, I can now quiet that down within a few seconds just by being aware that it's all going a bit haywire. And I do mine on the train in London on the way to work, like headphones in. You can still hear the noise, but you start to learn how to just tune it all out, and it just gives you a little bit of perspective. I find it really, really helpful. I now do 15 or 20 minutes, where before for a long time I just did 10. And all it is 10 minutes a day, not even every day, just when you can. For work, for general life, it's been a massive game changer for me. So yeah, I really recommend it. It's not for everybody, but yeah, big fan. And Headspace is what I use.
Yeah, seems to be a popular one. Okay, so when bulking, how long should I do this for before I strip the weight and reveal the muscle I have grown?
I think it takes longer to put on muscle than people think. So everyone sort of does, I do 8 weeks bulking or 12 weeks, and then I'm going to cut down and I'll be shredded. When you put on new muscle, you tend to lose some of that muscle quite quickly. When you have been doing it for a long time, it's almost like, without being kind of too pseudo-scientific, like muscle maturity, like the longer you've been bigger, the more likely you are to keep that muscle, it seems to be. I would say you probably want to be doing, like, if you really want to put on weight, spend a year trying to put on weight. It depends where you are in your training age. Newbie gains are always much faster. Whenever I would bulk to put on weight, which I've done countless times, then I would probably spend about, the
perma bulk?
Yeah. So I would spend like 8 months trying to put on weight, and then I would start to diet down. Yeah, just the one thing I would say is don't put on too much body fat. If you're starting to get fat, then you're going to affect your ability to put on muscle negatively. When you start getting, as a male, over like 20% body fat, then it's not doing good things with your hormone levels, and you're going to feel like shit. You're not going to look great. Keep yourself, if you've got like kind of visible abs, you're probably doing well. But I would say you want to leave it about 6 months at least if you're really trying to put on some muscle.
Yeah, definitely. Like you're saying, it takes far longer than we'd like to think to build muscle mass. And probably going to be kidding yourself to some extent, the amount you're building as opposed to just putting on some fat as well. Yeah. Which is inevitable and is part of like building muscle. But, you'll often see like the bikini girls being like, I put on X amount, 5 kilograms of muscle mass. Like, you definitely haven't. 100% you haven't. And the more experienced you are, the slower that process is going to take. So, you see that more experienced bodybuilders will take like 2 years off to build a significant amount of muscle.
Yeah.
And not everyone's bodybuilder, not everyone wants to go to that extreme, but that is the kind of time frame it takes to build noticeable amounts of muscle, that you're going to bring a whole new package to the stage.
I love that package.
Done. Trying to think if there's anything else we want to cover. That's a good one. So Fortis Physique, he's just said, like, if you're more patient, you can lean bulk, which is true. I mean, I don't know. I think that people tend to overplay. Like, it's nice to be able to put on a lot of fat, and it's nice to be like in a bulking mode and put on a load of size and just sort of use that as a bit of an excuse. But like, as Tom's saying, like, probably still having slightly visible abs means that, you know, we don't know for sure, but it probably means you're going to be sensitive enough to these nutrients that you're still going to be in a better position to build muscle mass. So when you start putting on too much fat, you become a little bit insulin resistant, and your growth signals aren't quite probably as sensitive to that.
Yeah.
Staying fairly lean. If you stay too lean, you're probably not going to build any muscle, because you're probably not actually in enough of a positive energy balance to do so.
Yeah.
And if you're an idiot like me and you like bulk for like 2 weeks, then you're like, no, I don't like not having abs, then you cut again. Like, you've kind of got to like commit to it, which I have done more recently.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm impressed.
Thank you. But yeah, like, I went through probably years of being like, yeah, I'm going to put on some size, and then I'd be like, nah, do you know what? I'm not really comfortable doing this, or just my mind again and again, and you never really get anywhere doing that.
No.
So give yourself a reasonable time period for it, and then stick to it.
Absolutely. There's one question that I want to answer.
Yeah, what is it?
The whole industry seems to focus more on building an engine and health and mobility. I do CrossFit and see a shift from athletes getting bored of aesthetics, moving more like Obi Vincent and Craig Ritchie and me. Yeah, so I got into...
You know what I think would be good for them?
What's that?
This program that I heard of, I think it's called Movable Muscle.
Weird.
Do you know anything about?
I do know something about that.
Oh.
Yeah. Nice. So yeah, I think I got into more mobility work because I was a broken rugby player who was immobile, just wanted to get massive, play rugby, smash people, until I herniated 2 discs in my lower back squatting because I wasn't mobile in my hips. And that caused me a lot of problems, and I was waiting. I got scanned and I was waiting for surgery, and I couldn't move. I was in agony, and all I could think to do was like, everything feels tight. My glutes, my hip flexors, so I've got to loosen this up. So I started doing mobility work, and then over a little bit of time, this is something I had to learn, start to notice my hips were freeing up and I felt better. And then after that, the pain started to go away, and I did more research and more mobility work. Then I went back to the doctor, and it's like, the pain's gone. I still feel weak in my lower back, whatever, but the pain's disappeared. And they scanned me again. They said it's sorted itself out pretty much. Like, keep doing what you're doing. So I like totally blown away. I said, how do I fix that with stretching? But then that led me into like, well, okay, if that was good, I'm going to do more. So I started to work on my overhead mobility and everything else. And that led me into start doing more CrossFit style workouts, lots of metcons and what they call engine building, which is just effectively saying work capacity or cardio. Then people like Obi Vincent, he's a massive bodybuilder. He and I trained some bodybuilding stuff, and I was like, all right, let's do some metcon at the end. That was kind of his first taste of it. Then he's like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try and be the massive bodybuilder that can also do some CrossFit. And that guy's now an absolute machine. Like,
and you built him?
No, not at all. But it's cool that other people doing bodybuilding also got that kind of mindset of, actually, you know what? Bodybuilding's fun. I look great, but I can't really move. and then they start stretching. You start to feel the benefit. And it's more that we've all just kind of accepted that looking good, or we accepted looking good was awesome. But after a while, you're like, other people seem to be doing a lot of cool shit that I can't do. I want to go and do some stuff that maybe I'm going to suck at, but it looks quite fun. And then you start to see the benefits, and you realize, like, I'm leaner doing this than I was bodybuilding and walking on the treadmill. And I feel
there's a different feeling that you get from, like, I love, like, getting a pump on and that bodybuilding style of training and, like, feeling your muscles are, like, burning. But you also get, like, a different kind of endorphin rush, I think, from being absolutely balls to the walls, doing burpees, med ball slams, you know, whatever it is, when you're really, like, pushing yourself to what you can do. And it turns into a bit of a mind game as well. That, yeah, I know in bodybuilding you can push yourself, you can do a drop set, you can really squeeze the muscle, whatever it is. But there's nothing quite like being absolutely dripping with sweat, like can't breathe. You get like a different kind of endorphin response, which I think is probably what we miss from training sport.
Yeah. When you ran track, it was that feeling of like burning lungs. I put everything into this. Yeah. And yeah, being out of breath from a couple drop sets on bench is not cardio. It's you're out of breath for 20 seconds. It's not you're not really working on your cardiovascular system. So that feeling is something that once you start to experience, you're like, fuck, that was horrible, but I do want to do it again. Maybe not today, but yeah, I want to try.
Or it's like you read a session like a Metcon or something and you're like, that sounds horrible, there's no way I can do it, and then you do it.
Yeah.
You're like, I proved to myself I can do something. It's like an accomplishment rather than, 3 sets of 10 again on the chest press. Cool. Like, I guess it depends on what kind of person you are. Because if you don't particularly like exercise, it's probably not the right kind of exercise for you. And maybe one day, like, you'll start to like exercise more, and it will be for you. And it's sort of at that stage when you're maybe just starting, or you kind of just don't like exercise, something like minimal effective dose, which would be for me like picking 5 machines that work your full body and doing 3 sets of 10 on each. You get it done. Not that uncomfortable. It's quite easy to do. There's not a lot of buy-in to it, and you walk out the gym and you've benefited. But
it's still good. Like there is one's not better than the other, but a lot of people are now seeing that they're enjoying the type of exercise that before you sort of looked at like, what the hell are they doing? Like, that looks dumb. Until you try it, and then you're like, oh, actually, this is kind of fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think we're out of questions, and that was awesome. So we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for chatting to me.
Thanks for